William Shakespeare was an English poet and famous playwright, and is widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language. Although a great deal of mystery surrounds Shakespeare's life, it is documented that he was born in Stratford-upon-Avon in the centre of England and was baptised in 1564. He was probably educated in Stratford in the local grammar school, and then there is no record of him until he married Anne Hathaway in 1582. The couple had 3 children, and then 7 years passed, known as Shakespeare's lost years, where there is no documented record of him until he was noted as part of the London theatre scene in 1592. In 1592, Shakespeare's work was criticised by another playwright, which documented his career, although it is unknown when he began writing. Shakespeare's plays were performed solely by the Lord Chamberlain's Company from 1594, of which Shakespeare himself was one of the actors. After Queen Elizabeth I died in 1603, the new king, James I, issued a royal patent to the company, and it was renamed the King's Men. The company built a new theatre on the south bank of the River Thames in London in 1599, called the Globe, which made Shakespeare a wealthy man. His plays began to be published in 1594, and by 1598 his name appeared on the title pages of the works. He continued writing until at least 1613, and died in 1616, survived by his wife and daughters. He is buried in the Holy Trinity Church in Stratford-upon-Avon, and his epitaph warns of a curse upon anyone who disturbs his remains. His works consist of some 38 plays, 154 sonnets, and several other poems. His plays have been translated into every major modern language, and his plays have been performed more than any other playwright in history.
Double, double toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble.
What light is light if Sylvia be not seen?
By my troth I care not, a man can die but only once.
Some rise by sin and some by virtue fall. And I, forsooth, in love, I that have been love's whip,
I am ashamed that women are so simple.
all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players.
The course of true love never did run smooth.
If music be the flute of love, play on.
Off with a crown and with a crown his head.
Sad story's best for winter, I have one.
Blow, winds, and crack your cheeks! Rage, blow!
The pound of flesh which I demand of him.
The ripest fruit first falls.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears.
Does the world go round? He will give the devil his due.
There was a star danced, and under that was I born.
Why then the world's mine oyster, which I with sword will open.
Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo?
But I will wear my heart upon my sleeve.
Fool, don't you see I could poison you 100 times had I been able to live without you?
Love all, trust a few, do wrong to none.
If one good deed I did in all my life, I do repent it from my very soul.
Let's go hand in hand, not one before another.
We are such stuff as dreams are made on.
Once more into the breach, dear friends, once more!
There is a world elsewhere.
Now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by this son of York.
The common curse of mankind, folly and ignorance. Defer no time, delays have dangerous ends.
We have seen better days.
Few love to hear the sins they love to act.
For courage mounteth for occasion.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
'Tis 10 to 1 this plague can never please.
Forbear to judge, for we are sinners all.
My name is William Shakespeare, but I suppose you heard about me. I want you to show you my theater, the Globe. It's made of wood and it's in the shape of an O. It was built by James Burbage for my company, the Lord Chamberlain's Men.
Hi, Willie. You look in good shape.
Hi, Richard. You look fine too. The place held several thousand playgoers, and often it was packed. Why? Because it was such a novelty. There had never been such a thing in Britain before. Earlier theaters of a sort had existed, but never before had there been a commercial playhouse dealing with subjects like everyday life, love and death, comedies, tragedies, and histories, with human failures and triumphs. And it wasn't expensive. The Lord Chamberlain's Men produced works for everyone. You could get in to see a play if you didn't mind standing for a penny. The standees were known as groundlings. The members of the audience would drop their coins into a box as they entered, hence the term box office. There could be as many as 500 for a performance, and they kept commenting all that was taking place on the stage. Vendors wandered through the crowd during the performance selling beer, apples, oranges, and nuts. Hazelnuts seemed to have been preferred. The Elizabethan Playhouse, by the way, was painted in marvelous colors. The performances usually had no, or very little, scenery, but no one minded because no one had ever seen a performance with scenery, so they didn't miss it. A key point to note about the Globe was its location. The theatre, the plays, the actors were all regarded by right-thinking Londoners, as well as by the authorities, as not really respectable. So the place had to be outside the city proper. Now let's give a look of the theatre architecture. Its shape was circular or octagonal, and inside there were 3 stories of roofed galleries looking down onto the stage. There was no roof over the yard, so the groundlings got wet when it rained. The stage was called apron stage because it jutted into the yard, also called pit, so that when the theatre was full the actors were surrounded on 3 sides. The stage was so small that no more than 12 actors could appear at the same time. The shadow or thatched roof protected the players from the rain. In front of the stage there was a trapdoor used for devilish apparitions and disappearances. The actors' tiring house was the place where the actors changed their costumes, and it was presumably located behind stage. There were 2 doors for entrances and exits. Behind the stage there was an inner stage hidden by a curtain, when not in use. It was needed for several plays, for Juliet's tomb, or as a hiding place for Claudius and Polonius in Hamlet. When a tragedy ended with several corpses on the stage, 2 methods were available. Either the body was carried off or it was hidden in a recess, but not behind a curtain. Why? Because in the Elizabethan theatres there were no curtains. There was also an upper stage, and an upmost area normally occupied by the musician. This is weird. When the play was in progress, a flag flew at the top of the roof of the theatre with its emblem. There were no artificial lights in my theatre. Often on the apron stage the actor came forward in the midst of the audience and, being in close contact with his public, could use a great variety and subtlety of voice, gesture and expression. There were no scenery but only simple props, like tables, chairs, swords, canvases of the sun and the moon. 4 night scenes. A simple torch transported the audience into the night world. My only regret is there were no actresses in the Elizabethan theatre, and so the parts of young women were acted by boys. Apart from this, it was fun to be part of an actor's company. But we were not only friends, we were all partners and shareholders of our acting company. That's why companies usually remain constant. Well, I imagine you would have enjoyed living in the Elizabethan age, but, alas, you have not been as lucky as myself. Bye, friends.
Rose impassite, un profumo invecchiato diffonde oltre il vetro opaco. E sterza ballando con le labbra al vento versi di dolce tormento.